Hello and welcome back to Reading Past Midnight. Today we're going to look at some books that I have bought recently at a number of library sales. I'm going to just basically show you what I've bought. In some cases I'll explain why I bought what I bought. Library sales are a great resource for someone like me who collects books as well as does a lot of reading. Compared to, I would say, the average person. Frankly, the average person I don't think reads much at all, which is extremely unfortunate. But we'll take a look. I've been to, I think, 3 library sales recently, and I've got 8 bags of books. That's quite a few. So we'll take a quick look here, and I'll maybe discuss a few and then cut out a bunch of superfluous video. Make a comment down below. See which books you'd maybe like to see a review of, which ones fit in our projects and which ones don't, which books you're absolutely not interested in at all, and which books you would say shame on you for purchasing. There are very few of those, I think. So let's move right into the first book, and I don't actually know which book sales I bought these at now because the bags have intermingled. But I will be shelving these today in my library, so I'm going to have a lot cleaner area over here that's off camera that you guys can't see, which is a good thing. So we'll start right here. We have a very nice copy of Alexander Solzhenitsyn's August 1914. The reason I bought this, I paid a whopping $1 for it at a library sale. I already have a copy of this, but the copy that I have is old and tattered, so I bought myself a nicer copy. I don't think it's a first edition or anything special like that. So the purchaser purchased this in 1973. Okay. So that's a nice one. Then we have a couple by Jose Saramago, kind of a dystopian type author, whose work I quite like. Some of it's really good. Blindness, I think, is my favorite novel by him. His stuff is difficult to read in general. Stylistically, he might write one sentence that's several pages long, paragraphs. So I just opened to a paragraph that is a minimum of 5 pages long. 5, 6, 7.5 pages long for one paragraph. That's not unusual for Saramago. His novels tend to be interesting, well thought out, thought-provoking, but again, not for the general reader. This is something that is a little difficult to read. E.L. Doctorow, City of God. I am a fan of Doctorow. I read this a long time ago. I've got a paperback copy, so I thought, I'll buy a nice $1 hardback to add to my collection. Then some, just cheap to have. Sun Also Rises by Hemingway. I've never read it, and I am a fan of Hemingway, so I got that for $1. Man's Fate by Malraux in a modern library edition. Anthony Trollope, He Knew He Was Right. I did not have a copy of this, and I have never read it. This one would definitely belong in the very long book project, as it is over 800 pages and small print. I do like Trollope. Saul Bellow, Humboldt's Gift. Again, I read that in paperback. I have like a 1950s or 60s or whenever this one came out. Paperback that's falling apart, so I just picked up a hardback to have. It's quite faded, but what do you want for $1? Joseph Heller, Closing Time, sequel to Catch-22. I have not read it. I have read Catch-22, loved it, is one of my favorite books. So I figured I'd grab this and give that a read at some point in the near future. John Irving, an author I have very mixed feelings about. Some of his work I have thoroughly enjoyed and find it very thought-provoking. Some of his work I don't particularly like, and that's okay. You don't have to like everything by an author to find the author worthwhile. Even the stuff that I don't really like about, even the stuff that I don't really like of his, I do find thought-provoking in one way or another. So there is that. Exit Ghost by Philip Roth, a novel of his that I did not have. Salman Rushdie, Midnight's Children. I don't have that. It's a Rushdie that I have not read. Another E.L. Doctorow that I had in paperback that I bought a hardback for. Richard Rousseau, chances are. Something that might be interesting. Maybe not. Tortilla Flat, a modern library version. Steinbeck, one of the few Steinbecks that I haven't read, and I don't actually have a copy of it. Another Philip Roth, Indignation. Roth was quite prolific. And Orhan Pamuk, one of my favorite authors, Nobel Prize winner. If you want a very modern, thought-provoking author whose range of writing, from historical fiction to general literary fiction, the breadth of his work is astounding. My favorite work of his that I've read so far is Snow. I think My Name is Red is his most popular work. It's also a very good piece of historical fiction. Snow deals a little bit with the Armenian genocide, which Turkey is still trying to come to grips with, which is understandable. Yeah, it's something that we don't come to grips with ourselves, with our own genocides. Something we all try to deny. Guilt, and especially past guilt, is hard to deal with. Am I, as a white American, guilty for enslavement of black people when our country was younger than it is now? Am I guilty for the genocide of the Native Americans? I'm not actually guilty of the acts, but I certainly have inherited the benefits of those times. So, interesting question. Join us for some of the Genocide Project videos if something like that interests you. Infinite Jest. Now, this is a book that I have started in the past, and it may be a truly brilliant work of literature, and I will at some point get back into it, which is why I picked it up for $1. The problem that I have with this novel is personal. I have a problem with tennis, which is one of the main subjects of the novel. And that is, again, on a personal level. A biography of John Quincy Adams to add to my library of presidential biographies. A copy of Cutting for Stone. The only reason I bought this is because I seem to have loaned out or lost my copy of it. So the paperbacks here were like 50 cents. So I bought this. This, I would say this is truly one of the greatest books ever written. And please join me on our quest for the greatest novel ever written. And I think that in the next few videos in that series, you'll see a discussion of Cutting for Stone. Just an amazing, amazing novel. The Unconsoled, Kazuo Ishiguro. Did not have a copy of that, have not read it. And in for my presidential biographies, I picked up the 3-volume set of Ramini's biography of Andrew Jackson. I had volume 1, which I had read years and years ago, probably when it first came out, and never picked up volumes 2 or 3. They had the 3-volume set for $3, so I am going to be doing something with volume 1, and as for the other 2, I will have them to read at some point in the future. And I got a bunch of paperbacks just for fun. Moll Flanders, Daniel Defoe, a couple of volumes of plays by Bertolt Brecht, volume 5 and volume 7. I think I have volume 7 already, but I don't think I have volume 5. D.H. Lawrence, Fantasia of the Unconscious and Psychoanalysis and the Unconscious. Get into the mind of a truly great writer. I do like D.H. Lawrence's fiction. I also quite like his poetry. This one comes in a box, so I think perhaps we have to change this from an unbagging to an unboxing, but the rest are all bags, so we'll just call it even. One of my new favorite writers, not that he's a new writer, but that I have recently begun reading his material, is William T. Vollmann. This is a copy of The Dying Grass, which is a novel of the Nez Perce War. I am currently working on a review of The Rifles, which is one of the earlier novels in his 7-volume series of the interaction between Europeans and Native Americans. This is a volume in that series, quite a heavy one, and this would also qualify in our very long book project. Yes, 1,300 pages, lots of information on sources and glossaries. His writing is quite good. I love his style. I love the amount of research that he puts into a book, and his story quality is excellent. Argall, which is the fourth. The Ice Shirt, which I'm halfway through. Fathers and Crows, and The Rifles, which I have read. So this would be the 4th in the series. Not quite as long as The Dying Grass. I'm looking at about just over 700 pages. So it does qualify for the very long book series. David Grossman, Be My Knife. I like David Grossman's novels. Ivo Andrić. I was with my wife's cousin when we were doing one of these visits, and he grabbed this book and he said, "You need to buy this and read it." So I did. Elizabeth Bowen collected short stories, because you can't have too many collections of short stories. Under This Blazing Light by Amos Oz. Amos Oz is one of my favorite authors. Excuse me, a little coffee. And when I ran across this, I was actually not even familiar with this. It's a collection of essays. I did have the pleasure to meet him once and chat with him briefly after a lecture he gave on the Peace Now movement in Israel years ago. I have no idea what he would make of what's going on now in Israel. The Story Begins, Essays on Literature, Amos Oz. Colm Tobin, another one of my favorite authors. I have this in paperback, just got a nice hardback edition of it. I'm getting pile up here. Aha, yes. Fathers and Crows, William T. Vollmann. Let's see, 968 pages. Yes, this fits into the very long book project. So I'm going to have to dive deeply into those. Evidently, somebody must have made a donation of Vollmann novels, or perhaps they unloaded their entire library to the local library, or one of them that I went to. Ken Kesey, Sailor Song. Interesting. I read Kesey a long time ago. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, of course. Sometimes a Great Notion I read, and I don't remember a thing of it. So I thought I'd give that a try. Okay. Patrick White, Nobel Prize winning author, of whom I've not read any. I've got a couple of his books that I picked up to read, to try and get to know, and I know him a little bit. Saw this, and for $1, why not? North America by Anthony Trollope. Again, a fan of Trollope's. I didn't have this, so I bought it. Afterlives by Abdul Razak Gurna. I am probably not even close to pronouncing that correctly. Nobel Prize, again. If you're going to read a work by a Nobel Prize winner, you're not going to go wrong. I wish I had time to study every Nobel Prize winner. That would make a worthwhile literary endeavor. Could probably spend a lifetime doing that. The Book of Intimate Grammar by David Grossman. Suddenly in the Depths of the Forest by Amos Oz. And one of the things that I notice in library sales, that's interesting. So you'll run into, like, all of a sudden you'll have 3 books by Vollmann, or maybe 4 or 5, and then you'll have a bunch of books by Grossman or Oz, and you'll realize that this all came from the same person's library and got passed on. So here we have W.H. Auden's Complete Plays. From the Complete Works of W.H. Auden. This is from the Princeton collection. I had 1 volume of the Princeton collection, and after these particular trips, I had 3. Now these 2 volumes were actually more than $1 each. And some of the library sales are pretty smart about the value of certain things, and they might charge $2, $3, $4 for some stuff. Sometimes more. For those into philosophy, Walter Kaufmann's Critique of Religion and Philosophy. Another Patrick White, The Eye of the Storm. Brother, I'm Dying by Edwidge Danticat. If you have not read Edwidge Danticat at all, I highly recommend her work when you're broadening your reading to bring in cultural works that you're maybe not familiar with. The Dewbreaker was powerful, just an astounding novel. Edwidge Danticat. Definitely look at hers. Jews and Words, Amos Oz, Fania Oz Salzberger. Another Abdulrazak Gurna, The Last Gift. Patrick White, The Living and the Dead. Again, all from the same place, so somebody cleared out a library. Leonardo Sciascia, The Wine Dark Sea. Don't know anything about this, but anything from the New York Review Books series is going to be good. I think I've only run across one that I didn't really find very interesting. So for $1, there's that. Ken Follett, Never. Ken Follett is an excellent novelist of historical fiction, as well as thrillers. I've enjoyed some of both of his. I just picked it up. It was there. I will read it at some point. I loved his historical novel series. I don't remember the name of it. About the building of the church and everything. And then there were like 4 or 5 or 6 or 20 novels in the series. I think there's only 4. All the King's Men, Robert Penn Warren. I have not read this. I have a tiny paperback copy with really small print. And I saw this and I thought, you know what, for $1, hey. Abraham Verghese, The Tennis Partner, which is a personal story, which I may have problems with the tennis again. But what the heck? What the heck? W.H. Auden Prose Volume 2, which is good because I have Prose Volume 1. So that was a nice piece to get. Again, I think that was more than $1. Don't remember where that was. Autumn Grasses, Poems by Margaret Gibson. So when I run across some poetry books like this at a library sale, what I'll do is I'll open it up and I'll read a couple, and if I enjoy them, then I'll just pick up the book and read it. The Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck, of course. I have read this. I just picked up a nicer copy than the one I had. Another Jose Saramago, Seeing. Maybe he wrote that to go with blindness. I'm not sure. Joyce Carol Oates, The Gravedigger's Daughter. I have mixed feelings about Joyce Carol Oates. I like some of her stuff. I kind of don't get into some of her stuff. But, again, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. The Tin Drum. That was my cat. This is a brilliant, brilliant novel. I picked this up because I have a little paperback from back in the day when this first came out, and it's falling apart. It's really hard to describe The Tin Drum, and I would have to reread it in order to do a video on it. I probably will at some point, because I consider it one of the great works of the 20th century, and I'm not the only one that does. It's disturbing. It's hysterical at some points. There are some points of pure emotionality. Is that a word? Pure emotion. Some of the literary technique in it is beautiful. It also fits in with the absurdist literary movement in some ways. If you have not read The Tin Drum and you're interested in World War II literature, it's a must-read. definitely ties in with the insanity of war. Thomas Wolfe, Oh Lost. So this is the completed version of Look Homeward Angel. The parts that were edited out for publication were put back in. So I will at some point read this. I have read Look Homeward Angel, and we will be discussing the Thomas Wolfe novels, which are up here, and this will be a discussion point in them as I figure out where I'm going with that. Primo Levi, The Monkey's Wrench. Salman Rushdie, some short stories. In the Cafe of Lost Youth, Patrick Modiano. It says it's in English for the first time. NYRB book, again, can't go wrong. Henry Fielding, Joseph Andrews, and Shyamala. Interesting. 2 novels of Joseph Andrews. The Ambassadors by Henry James, which I consider an almost unreadable novel. I've gotten about halfway through it twice. I do like some of Henry James, and I will at some point plow through it and maybe do a little discussion of it. I got the Norton Critical Edition so that when I'm ready to, I can read some other writings about it, what other people thought, as I try and coalesce my own thinking around the novel and where it goes. Also, I do have a collection of Norton Critical Editions, some of which are over here in the library and some of which are elsewhere. Stendhal, Love. Another Modiano. Ian McEwan, Amsterdam. Somerset Maugham. This is one I don't have. I am a huge fan of Maugham. That sounds like a tongue twister, but it really wasn't. The Explorer. John Galsworthy, the Forsyte Saga. I have that in a beautiful leather-bound edition that I'm hesitant to read because I don't want to destroy the binding or disturb the binding, as it were. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, a short novella that I have read several times. Every time I read it, every time I read it, I get something else out of it, something that I've missed before or have since forgotten. I wanted to get this again to add to my collection of Norton Critical Editions, but also to maybe gain more insight into Conrad, who I have very mixed feelings about. Some of his stuff I don't like at all, and some of his stuff I do. Andre Malraux, Man's Fate. Henry James, The American. A Clockwork Orange. Here's a Coetzee I don't have. J.M. Coetzee, Slow Man. Yasunari Kawabata, 1,000 Cranes. Very short novel. I do have a fondness for Japanese literature. All right, now I have piles of books all around, and I've gotten through 4 bags. Naguib Mahfouz, the Cairo Trilogy, for $3. $3. I have 2 out of 3 of these books, but for $3, that's a pretty good deal on all 3 in one volume. It does have a bit of heft. Tristram Shandy. That's one of those books that I just couldn't get into. I don't know. I think it's the kind of book you have to be in the right state of mind when you read it. So again, add to my collection of Norton books. See if I can peel the label that someone at one point. This one's made the rounds, although it doesn't really look like anybody actually read it. Maybe everybody had the same problem I do. There's a bookstore label there, there's a used book label there, and it eventually made it to my house for $1. Anthony Trollope, Orley Farm. I have not read this. I did happen to see it in a little article recommended by Follett. So I don't have this. I will maybe put this on my next reading, and it does make the very long book project, as it is 725 pages. So I can add that to there. Let's see. John Irving, The Last Chairlift, that was $4. They do usually charge a few bucks extra for more recent books. Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum. I read and enjoyed this. I am one of the few people I know that actually finished it. I think I've run into 2 others. I know a few people that have started it and just couldn't get into it. I quite liked it. I have a paperback version, so I just bought myself a hardback copy. And when I die, these are all going to end up at some library sale. As I Lay Dying, in a Norton Critical Edition. Of course, I do have this, and it's been a while since I read it. But for $1, it goes into my Norton Critical collection. Gunter Grass, My Century. Umberto Eco, Baudolino, also something I've got in a paperback, which I now have in hardback. Peter May, I quite enjoy his Scottish murder mysteries. So I saw that, picked it up. I've never seen one at a library sale before. Jeff Shara, a novel of the Battle of Midway. I do like his father's work on Gettysburg, and I figured, you know what, for $4, I'll give it a shot. See how I like it. Okay, we are moving quickly now, simply because I know I've spent a lot of time here, and it's going to be edited down. And by now, I've probably lost anybody who even started the video. Theater of the Absurd by Martin Esslin. This is a classic work on Theater of the Absurd, which I read parts of years ago. And, if you're interested in the Theater of the Absurd, I happen to love Theater of the Absurd. It's a great book. Anthony Trollope, Dr. Wortle's School. Never even heard of that one before. Wait a minute. I picked up some CDs somewhere. Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, conducted by Sir Charles Mackerras. Mackerras is an outstanding conductor. Ashkenazi conducting Sibelius's Symphony No. 1. And Bernstein conducting Shostakovich Symphony No. 5 and his cello concerto with Yo-Yo Ma. Can't go wrong with any of those. Don't really need CDs anymore, but they sell them for 50 cents now at the library sales. Without Precedent, we have a biography of Chief Justice John Marshall, the first Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. This is going to go into my American history section. With what's going on in the courts now, I might just sit down and read this for a brief moment of sanity. He was also biographer of George Washington. At one time in my collection, I did have a second edition of Marshall's Washington, which I sold a long time ago. And here comes the cat. There's books around. Gotta have a cat. Her name is Minu. She's been with us for just a couple of months now. She's hypoallergenic. She is a Siberian. She's a little bit vocal from time to time. The Last Avant-Garde, David Lehman. It's about avant-garde literature. The Master of Disguises, poems by Charles Simic. The Secret History. It was $1. John le Carré, The Tailor of Panama, to replace my little paperback. The Constant Gardener, which I have not read. I do like le Carré. So did whoever had these. Our Kind of Traitor. Nope, I don't have that one either. I did read his last one, though, which was quite illuminating. John Ashbery, Quick Questions, poems. Zuleika Dobson by Max Beerbohm. So this will be coming up at some point in the Genocide Project. Bobby Yar. This is just a hardback edition. I have a tattered paperback from college, which I've read a couple of times. It's been a while. Let's see. Salem is My Dwelling Place, a biography of Nathaniel Hawthorne. Moll Flanders, Daniel Defoe, in a Modern Library edition. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Little Boy, a novel. The Humbling by Philip Roth. The Echo Anthology of Contemporary American Short Fiction, selected by Joyce Carol Oates and Christopher R. Beha. Because we all know who Joyce Carol Oates is, her name is printed larger. Perhaps that's backwards. We should maybe print larger the name of the person we don't know, so that we could get to know that person. Coming October, this is an uncorrected proof, not for sale. Well, I paid $1 for it. What the heck? That was the cat. Right. The Wrong Side of Paris by Balzac. Cousin Bet by Balzac. So, after I bought that other volume at a library sale, I ended up with Joseph Andrews and Shamela in a Norton Critical Edition. So, may have wasted $1. Anybody wants the other one, let me know. Mahfouz, Respected Sir, Wedding Song, and The Search. Breathe, another Joyce Carol Oates. The Count of Monte Cristo. This is a Modern Library Classics paperback. This is 1,400 pages. I read in high school an abridged version of this. I have never read the whole thing. There are notes up to page 177. Evidently this person stopped there, or else just kept reading. I don't know. I do remember that I loved the book. I just plowed right through it, but it was 400 pages instead of 1,400, or maybe it was 500 pages. Henry Fielding, Tom Jones. What fun. Again, it's a long time since I read it, and I don't have the copy that I read. I read it in college. And I remember the general outlines of the story. I remember having a lot of fun reading it, and I remember that one of his teachers' names was Thwackum. And I thought that was just the perfect name for a teacher back in the day when you were allowed to hit kids. Mr. Thwackum. Can't do that anymore. I'll let you decide for yourself whether that's a good or a bad thing. July, July by Tim O'Brien, and In the Lake of the Woods by Tim O'Brien. Tim O'Brien's an excellent writer. A Fable by Faulkner from the Franklin Library leatherbounds. I do have a bunch of those, as I collected them once upon a time when I was young. That actually started me in the world of book collecting when I was in high school. I subscribed to the Franklin Library. The Complete Works of Josephus. Definitely something everybody needs. This is just a little nicer volume than the one I have. And there's a piece of newspaper with it. Monday, December 9th, 2019. A little review. Okay. Colm Tobin, The Master. Brilliant book. Definitely one of Tobin's best. This is to replace a paperback copy that I have. Somebody charged $4 for this. Peter Matheson, Shadow Country. This is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It is one story told 3 times, and it really is 3 complete, no. This belongs in the conversation of the great American novel. Winner of the National Book Award, which it certainly should have done. Originally, he wrote this as 3 separate novels. He rewrote them as 1 novel, edited, added stuff, took stuff out. This is just a brilliant telling of one story from 3 different perspectives, and they read as if they're 3 completely different stories. You get the story of, yeah, I'll get into that in another place. 900 pages. The Naked and the Dead. Very nice, just old copy. I've got a paperback, so I just picked that one up. Nabokov, Transparent Things. I think this was my wife's. The Life of Ellen Montgomery, creator of the world of Anne of Green Gables. Yes, that would be hers. And a copy of I, Claudius, because my 3rd copy of it went walkabout. How do you lose books? I don't know. They just disappear. They turn into Wright gloves. I have a large collection of Wright gloves, of which the left gloves are missing. I think they turn into coat hangers. Not sure how that works. Okay, I just got a few left. Ugh. Vasily Grossman and the Soviet Century. If you don't know who Vasily Grossman is, you should. Stick with my channel. I'll be discussing his World War II literature at some point in the future. Salman Rushdie, The Moor's Last Sigh. And oddly enough, I found at this library sale a better copy of Humboldt's Gift. So if somebody wants a copy of Humboldt's Gift, put something in the comments and I'll be glad to send you a copy. The Cambridge Companion to the 18th Century Novel. Excellent. And Farley Mowat, No Man's River. Farley Mowat is a naturalist and writer. You might remember his book Never Cry Wolf, which also became a Disney film, of which there was some controversy because it didn't quite stick to the narrative. And there we are. So, please hit like and subscribe if you want to support the channel. It would be much appreciated. Thank you for wasting your time watching me go through all these books, which I now have to shelve. Thank you very much.